Alright guys, in today's video what we're going to be doing is taking some time to talk about the games that we are either expecting to be revealed at the PlayStation 5 event tomorrow, or maybe even the games that we are hoping are revealed or teased out during the event tomorrow. And so what I want to do to make this, in my opinion, more interesting is I have a long list of games that I'm going to be going over and talking about. The main list I'm going to be focusing on are games that, in my opinion, to some extent are likely. However, I do think that some of these games on this list are much more likely than others. And of course, there's always those games that it seems unlikely, but maybe there's a chance. So what I want to do is each game I go over, I'm going to give it either a rating of unlikely, 50-50, or likely. And I think that will make the video a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to be very interested to see whether or not you guys agree with my predictions and what I'm saying here. And I do want to let you guys know, this is a little bit of a disclaimer, I do not have any inside sources. I know sometimes on Twitter I make it seem that way, but the truth is everything I put out is just stuff that I'm thinking in my head, or kind of the dots I'm trying to connect. I don't have anybody feeding me information. I do not have any inside information whatsoever. So I have to make that crystal clear so that way you know that these are simply my predictions, not me hinting at anything. So do not take it that way. But before we get into it, if you could do me a big favor, make sure you hit the like button to show your support and help the video out, and make sure you hit the subscribe button as well so you don't miss any future content. And I do want to let you know that tomorrow I will be going live, most likely at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I know that's a good 2 hours before the event actually starts, but I have a good feeling, just like I said yesterday, that a lot of you are going to be doing the exact same thing I am, which is kind of pacing around, eagerly anticipating this event, waiting for it, and it's just going to be hard to contain the excitement. So I figured what I could do is I could go live pretty early where we could, all hang out, or those of you who do want to show up early, hang out, talk, get excited, get pumped, and then we'll watch the event together, obviously. And we are probably going to be live for quite some time after the event, because I'm probably going to have a lot to say. It's going to be a really good time. It's going to be an absolutely insane stream. So I hope you guys will join me. And I think it's going to be, something that we're going to want to experience together. Hopefully there are no technical issues, but I'll try to have that stuff all ironed out. So anyway, getting into the video here, we're going to go over the list of games that I think are, well, I don't want to say likely, but just the games that are within the ballpark. Like, I don't want to say that, I think, we're going to see, we're going to see a 20-minute gameplay segment of the next Spider-Man game. Like, that, I think, is kind of completely unrealistic to expect. Is it realistic to maybe expect a tease of the next Spider-Man game? Yeah, so hopefully you get a good idea. Anyway, let's start with the first game here, possibly the biggest game that we could see revealed at this event, Horizon 2, or a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, whether or not I had to give this a rating of likely, 50-50, or unlikely, I'm going to give it a rating of likely. In fact, if I could, I would give it a rating of highly likely. Now, if you want to ask me whether or not we're going to see a full-blown gameplay demonstration, that I think is 50-50. However, I do think it's very likely we will see Horizon 2. All signs are pointing to that, and I think Horizon 2, I think Horizon 2 is going to be the first really big, like, massive AAA game that's expected to sell tens of millions of copies potentially that the PlayStation 5 will get. I do not think it's going to launch. I don't think it's going to be a launch day title, but I think it will launch within the first 6 months to possibly the first year of the console being out. So because of that, I think it's guaranteed we will see this at the event. I think it's likely. Now, the next game I have on this list is Ratchet and Clank. If I had to give this likely, 50-50, or unlikely, I'm going to say 50-50. The reason being is because I think that we will for sure see something from Insomniac Games, but the big question mark, and the reason why Ratchet & Clank specifically is 50-50, is there's a lot of different things that could show up here. There could be more than one game that shows up here. Maybe we could see a tease of Spider-Man. I think that's unlikely, but I also think that it's possible. Like, it's not completely out of the ballpark. I think we could see possibly something with Resistance. A lot of people have mentioned that, how they've been kind of maybe teasing it, low-key on their Twitter account. I think that's also possible. Some people are thinking Sunset Overdrive. I would not expect that at all. I will say, though, Ratchet and Clank seems like the most likely to be there if we're going to see anything from Insomniac, and I think in second place we will potentially see a tease of the next Spider-Man game. So Ratchet and Clank for me, while I want to say it's likely, I want to put it up there with 50-50 simply because, you know, it could be something completely different from Insomniac. The next game I have on this list, and this would technically be a third-party title because it would be coming from Activision, however, and there will be some third-party titles on this list, just not many, but this would be a timed exclusive if it's there, that being a new Crash Bandicoot game. Now, whether or not I think this is likely, 50-50, or unlikely, I'm going to say it's 50-50. The reason being is we've seen a lot of different rumors and reports that apparently there is in fact a new Crash Bandicoot game in the works. And on top of that, we're hearing that it might actually also be a timed PlayStation 5 exclusive. This makes sense because this is what Sony did with Activision with the Insane trilogy, and I could see them wanting to continue that and possibly have it there as a launch title, and it's a huge mascot for PlayStation as well, or at least it's synonymous with PlayStation, so I think that's 50-50. The reason why I'm not saying likely is because while we have had some rumors and we've been hearing a little bit about it, we haven't heard all that much, so I'm going to keep that at 50-50. Now the next title, we're talking about the next God of War. Now for this one, I'm going to have to say it's unlikely. The reason why I say this is because if I was going to expect to see anything from Sony Santa Monica at this event, I would expect a new IP to be teased out or full-blown revealed. And if we get anything similar to Spider-Man, I think it would be more likely we get a small tease of the next God of War. However, I think it's too soon for that. God of War is a massive, massive game that, in my opinion, Sony is going to want to save for a later date, and they can use it to really sell, really propel the PlayStation 5 and sell it at a much more rapid rate once the sales after initial launch start to maybe slow down a little bit. So that's why I think it's unlikely we'll see the next God of War. The next game is a third-party game, and that one is going to be Resident Evil 8. I think Resident Evil 8 is likely. I think we will see this game announced at the event. We've actually seen it apparently leak out on the PlayStation Store. Apparently it's called Resident Evil 8 Village, and it sounds like it's going to be pretty good, and it seems like Sony has the marketing rights to that, and Capcom's going to reveal this game for the first time at this event, so I think it's likely. In fact, I would say it's very likely. Now the next title is a big one, and that is Silent Hill. Now, as much as I want to say it's likely we'll see this at the event, I'm going to have to put it at 50-50. Not because I don't believe it exists. I 100% believe it exists. But we do have to understand that based off of the reports that are coming from credible sources, it seems as though Sony cannot decide whether or not they want to show this game off at this event, because this is supposed to be an event that focuses on launch games, which is another reason why I think you might not see games like Spider-Man teased or God of War teased even in the slightest. But at the same time, the team is apparently very excited to show it, so I'm going to have to give it 50-50 because there is a chance we may end up seeing this later in the year, possibly sometime in August. Now the next game, and this is a game that I know a lot of people really want, and frankly I want it as well, and I would love to say it's likely that it's going to be there. However, I cannot say that because of the nature of this game and how we've heard so little about it. A SOCOM reboot. Now, the likelihood of this actually being a thing in general is also 50-50. We know that Guerrilla Games has a second team. We know they're working on a multiplayer project, and there has been some signs in the past that it could potentially be a SOCOM reboot. Could also be a different Killzone game. Could be something completely new, completely different, a new IP, maybe even a Horizon spin-off that's multiplayer. So I have to put this as 50-50 when it comes to the likelihood of it actually being at this event. However, whatever this title is, I do think it's very likely it will launch alongside the PS5. That just makes sense to me, and it will come out before Horizon 2. And frankly, if I had to choose between SOCOM, new Killzone, or a spin-off Horizon multiplayer, I would choose SOCOM. I do hope it is SOCOM. I think that would be awesome. Now, the next title here is The Last of Us Online, or this standalone multiplayer Last of Us title that we know is in the works. I'm going to have to put this as I'm going to have to put this honestly as unlikely, as much as I don't want to, but it's still a possibility. Like, it's still certainly within the ballpark. The reason why I say this is because you have to think of the timing of this event. Do they want to announce something like that about The Last of Us or within The Last of Us universe, knowing that the next day the review embargo of The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be lifted and the game's coming out in about a week's time? I think that wouldn't be the smartest thing, although we could maybe see it teased, and you could also maybe look at it the other way. Maybe it makes more sense now to reveal it, but I think that that's something that both Naughty Dog and Sony are going to kind of wait on. But maybe not. Maybe this is something they want to have at the launch of the PS5. So maybe I could be completely off the mark. Maybe it could be very likely. But I'm going to stick to unlikely for that one. That's my prediction. Now, the next game is also a third-party game. I'm not going to spend much time talking about it. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Obviously likely. This game is pretty much leaked out at this point, and it's all but confirmed that it will be at this event. It's just, there's all these signs pointing to it. We've seen literal leaked gameplay footage. I would 100% expect this to be revealed at this event. The next game I'm going to say is likely. In fact, if I could give it a very likely rating, I would. And that game is Godfall. This is a game that we know exists. We know it's for PS5 and PC. And we know that they plan to show gameplay soon. So expect to see this at the event. Godfall is a game that I know not everybody's on board with, but the more I see of it, the more I think about what they're trying to go for, the more I'm on board with it. And I think it will be a launch title as well. I think that will be there day one with the PS5. Now, the next title I'm going to say is also likely, that being Gran Turismo 7. There are some people who think that this isn't as likely, but I think that between the leak we got or the image leak we got, the logo leak, I should say, from the peripheral manufacturer who makes, peripherals for these types of games, Gran Turismo 7, I think, is a real thing. We know that a trademark for it was filed for some type of Gran Turismo game recently, so I think all signs are pointing that Gran Turismo 7 will be there at the event. It makes sense that this would be a game that Sony wants to show off just how good games can look graphically on the PlayStation 5. And yeah, I think it will be a launch title as well, or will launch within the first month or two of the PS5 being out. The next one is also a third-party title, that being the new Harry Potter RPG. I want to say it's 50-50 that it could be at this show. We know that this is a real thing that exists at this point. However, whether or not it's going to show up on Sony stage, I think it's 50-50. I think it would be a big win for Sony if they could, because I think people will be very hyped for something like this. But we're going to have to wait to see about that. For now, I'm putting that at 50-50. Another third-party game is the new Batman game, sticking with WB. I think the chances of this Batman game being revealed at this event are actually likely. I say this because we've heard a new rumor, apparently, that this game is set to be revealed very soon. People have already felt like they've been waiting forever for it. So I think them revealing it at the Batman event, at the PlayStation 5 event, makes the most sense, and I think it will be a launch title as well. It's not going to be exclusive, obviously. It will be a third-party game, but if you think about it, Sony had the marketing rights for the last Batman game, so I'm sure that that's a partnership they want to continue, and I just think it makes the most sense. So expect to see the Batman game there. I think it's likely. The next game is a Demon's Souls remake. This I would put up there as very likely. It's all but confirmed at this point, and we've even heard a rumor apparently that this is the game that Sony's going to use to close out the show, so I would expect it to be there. I think it will also be a launch title, which would be extremely exciting. And the more as I'm going through this list, the amount of games that I'm actually expecting to be there at launch, I think Sony's going to have a very robust and diverse lineup of games at the launch of the PS5, which is awesome. So Demon's Souls is a game I'm very much excited for, the remake anyway, because I never did get to play the original, and I honestly can't wait to see it. It's going to be one of my most, it's going to be one of the games that gets me the most excited. I can't wait for it. I know that sounds, to some people that sounds ridiculous because it's a remake, but still, I never experienced the first one. Can't wait to see it, and I think it's pretty much guaranteed. The next game is a new IP from Housemarque, a AAA title that will be potentially a launch title for the PS5, or launch within the first 6 months of the PS5. While this one may not be on many people's radars, I'm going to say this is also likely. I think that it's safe to say that Housemarque, I kind of talked about this in one of my most recent podcasts, but they have something in the works. They have confirmed they're working on a AAA title. They've confirmed it's the biggest game they've ever worked on, and they've also confirmed that they're just waiting for the green light, and they actually said this back in January, so keep in mind that Sony did have events planned for early 2020, that were apparently canceled, they were just waiting for the green light from their publisher to reveal the game. Now, all signs, in my opinion, not to mention that Shuhei Yoshida paid Housemarque a visit back in mid-2019, all signs are pointing that Sony is funding this game and it will be an exclusive, and the fact that it's AAA really piques my interest because I'm very interested to see what a AAA new IP would look like coming from Housemarque. So lock that one in. I think it's very likely. I think it will be at this event tomorrow. The next one is Project Awakening. This one I want to say is 50-50 because it's been a very long time since we heard of it. In fact, a lot of people don't even know what this game is, but it is a third-party exclusive game made by, I think, Cygames. I don't know if that's what they're actually called. I could be completely wrong, but they're working on this big AAA game, and it looked ahead of its time when we saw the trailer for it. Looks really cool. It looks like it's, taking a lot of cues from, Dark Souls and the Souls-like games. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the game. I hope we see it. I do think it's 50-50 though. They've been so quiet about it for so long that I think it's really difficult to tell whether or not it's actually going to be there. And then we also have MLB The Show. This, I think, is 50-50 because we don't know whether or not it's going to be a launch title. And so continuing with MLB The Show, you also have to think about Sony San Diego. Now, if there's one thing we do know is Sony San Diego, they have a secret team right now that's working on a AAA project, and they've been working on it for the past, I'd say, about 2.5 years, something along those lines. We may not see MLB The Show because, again, this is supposed to focus on launch titles, although with that in mind, you could also apply that maybe it's not likely we'll see this new IP that they're working on or potentially an Uncharted continuation. I want to say it's unlikely we will see this new IP or this Uncharted continuation, whatever the game is that Sony San Diego is working on. I want to say it's unlikely that we will see this at the event, simply because we have no idea how far out this game could be. However, if it is a continuation of Uncharted or some sort, Sony might want to tease that out. So I guess the big question with all of these games we're mentioning is, like, it seems like we have to wait to see how fine the line is that Sony wants to draw between having games shown off that you can expect within the first year of the PlayStation 5 versus showing off games that are further down the pipeline. We really don't know the ratio at which Sony wants to show this stuff off, although if what we heard about Silent Hill is anything to go by, that might tell us that Sony wants to try to focus on having games that you can expect within the first 6 months, maybe even the first year of the PS5 being out. They just want to focus on those games. They don't really want to show games that are a year away or 2 years away or beyond that, 3 years away. They're probably going to save those announcements for later on. So that's my prediction, guys. That's a pretty massive list of games. I'm positive that there are games I'm either forgetting or leaving out, but this is the list I could come up with. And honestly, if we even get half of these games shown off that I listed, it's going to be an awesome show. It's certainly not realistic to expect all of these, but the thing about all of the games I listed, they're all within the ballpark. Even the ones that I said are unlikely, these are all still titles that you might still end up seeing. However, I do think there are some here that are pretty much guaranteed, and I think it's going to be an exciting day, guys. I really can't wait for tomorrow, and yeah. I mean, there's not much more else I can say about it. I know all of you are excited as well, so that's pretty much going to do it for the video, guys. It did turn out a little bit long, but that's because we had a lot of games to go over, so I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, again, be sure to leave the video a like to show your support. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know which ones you agree with when it comes to my predictions. Let me know which ones you don't agree with, and let me know if there's any games I left out that you hope to see or you expect to see. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.